Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for joining us today. I feel elated to welcome you all to this special session on GitHub Copilot hosted by IEEE Sahrdaya SB. Today, we have the honor of hosting a distinguished guest from GitHub, Ms. Ambali KK. She is a senior cloud solutions engineer at GitHub and brings a wealth of expertise to the table. She is a DevOps specialist, GitHub specialist, Azure architect, YouTuber, blogger, author, speaker, performance analyst, .NET developer, and an enthusiast in Angular and material design, making her a apt, versatile, and knowledgeable speaker for today's session. Today, ma'am is here to share her insights and to introduce us to the incredible capabilities of GitHub Copilot. Without further ado, over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks, Bridget. It's a great introduction. So welcome all to the new experience of development. I'm Ambli here. I'm a cloud solution engineer from GitHub and science developer from GitHub. That is what I call myself. So along with me, obviously, my AI companion is there. That is none other than GitHub Copilot. I will be introducing Copilot sooner to you people. So let us start with today's discussion. I will be taking it in a discussion mode. If you feel any questions or any confusions, please stop me in the middle, or you can pass the questions in the Q&A or the chat window. I'll take it up from there. Okay. So today's agenda is I will give a brief introduction to what exactly the development, why these AI companions are important, and introduce to my companion, that is GitHub Copilot, and demonstrating some of these. So main focus will be how to use GitHub Copilot in your project development. That's a core area. It will be a demonstration. Then what will be your next step, how you can get access to Copilot as a student, and how you can leverage this capability as part of your internship or projects. That's what we are discussing today. So start with the developer journey. When I call developer, obviously you may be hearing a lot of terminologies or roles and designations from companies like the software engineer, system analyst, test automation person, or the ML engineer, data scientist. Anyone who deals with a code is a developer. The roles in a different companies will vary, but in heart, you will be a developer who is going to develop the future, the innovations, the how the future will look like depends on your development experience. So if you are not a core web development, don't think you are not a developer. Even a test automation person, a script developer is a developer. So we are dealing with developers today, and the development of a system. You may be already, some of you may be in the initial phase, started with some small programming aspect like the checking of some linked list or the validation of emails or some of these small programming construct. Some of you may be, as part of the internship, gone through the entire journey of a product development. When it comes to a product development, we go through multiple phases. There are code development. Before that itself, we do a detailed planning. What exactly the idea or innovation we are going to develop, and how it needs to be developed, what kind of standards should be followed, how to test it, build it, release it, and after deployment, even the production monitoring and the feedback from the end customers. So there are various elements included in a development journey. Many of you may be new to all of this, but obviously this is again a smaller set. When you get into a real programming area or a project, you will understand that based on the programs or your products important in a business, these stages will vary. Some of the projects will be, for example, a banking project or a healthcare project will have more performance and security impactful. But if it is a Google kind of a public serving thing, maybe a Reliance will be the important thing. So various elements will be played as part of the entire journey, starting from the planning till the deployment area. So as a developer, you are going to play a role end to end. So till now, you may be focused on how to develop the code, a particular language, maybe a Java or Python or C# kind of thing. But going forward, with the addition of this AI, your focus is converting into the other areas. You should transition to how to handle the other elements in your overall journey. So before I go into the next one, I would like to know your understanding on a developer. Obviously, coding is his core activity. Apart from coding, what other activities a developer may be doing? So I'm waiting for 1 minute in the chat window. If you can pass your understanding on what exactly the developer activities. Coding is covered. Apart from coding, what do you think the developer is doing day to day? He is having maybe 8 hours, maybe some of them are spending 12 hours in front of the laptop. So apart from coding, what may be the other activities a developer is doing? Anyone? If you have an idea, just chat, pass in the, okay, debugging, documentation, ideation. Cool. Let us wait for 2 more seconds. Maybe some more ideas will come. Anyone else? So we have 3 entries: debugging, documentation, ideation. Okay, let me go back. So the developer will be involved in multiple things. He needs to start with his environment setting, read through the documentation. Obviously, he needs to document his own code also. Debugging is also coming. That is a bug fix area. Unit testing. When you develop a code, obviously you need to test it. As a developer, what kind of test you are performing is called unit testing. You are developed a validation, email validation functionality. Next step is how, whether this is aligned to your requirement, whether it's checking the @ symbol or the dot in the email. Is it having a .com at the end? So all these criteria are covered by your code or not. That testing is called unit testing. You should be part of security issue fixes, PR description creations, requirement. There are n number of activities the developer is doing. Most of the time, in enterprises, you spend 8 hours. Out of 8 hours, obviously, we say productive hours are 6 hours. Out of 6 hours, you may be spending only 1 hour for actual development activities, the implementation of a feature. The remaining 5 hours are spent on other activities, discussing with your peer to understand how to implement the feature, discuss with the team lead to understand what kind of standards to be followed, what will be the security fix. You got an issue, bug, how to fix that one, or add the documentation. You created the code, now you need to explain what exactly the code is going to do it, or collaborate with other team members, review their code base. Many activities you will be performing. It's on top of learning a new technology or up to date with the current technology itself. You need to understand all aspects of development. Now, till now, our focus was only the IDE, the integrated development environment. You may be using the VS Code or IntelliJ or the Eclipse. Based on your technology stack, different IDEs are used by the developers. The MLA, the wave of ML or the introduction of ML and AI started maybe 5 to 6, 7, 8 years before. We used to develop ML or AI components as part of our products. Whenever there is a product development, initial stages, it's a forced inclusion of a ML module, even though the requirement can be addressed by a pattern search or simple implementation. Just to label the product as ML enabled, we used to develop a ML component as part of your product or software. Till last year or 2022, no one thought of how to use this AI into your development angles. The core of all the products, all internet-based or the computer-based systems, is the core development activities. How this AI can be leveraged as part of the development itself. That's a thought started in the early 2021, and we as GitHub, we released the GitHub Copilot in 2022. So why the AI is important? It is important because it's changed the way we develop the softwares. It fastens our task. Instead of spending 1 hour, you may be able to complete the task in 10 minutes. Maybe spending 1 week or 2 weeks before. Now, right now, you can complete the task within 1 day kind of thing. So AI will take care of repetitive tasks, the ones you again and again write it. Maybe the unit test is one example where you need to construct multiple unit tests. Even though your code is some 20 lines of code you developed, but for testing various scenarios, the boundary conditions, negative cases, positive cases, everything, you may need to write minimum of 10 to 20 different unit test cases. So there are a lot of effort spent on other activities also. If the AI is able to take care of that as a human being, we can focus on our innovation, the human-centric area. That's the thought came in early time, and people start introducing the AI companion for the developer. Apart from IDE-based system, we are getting the companions who will be next to you and help you in your development activities. There are multiple generative AI came in picture. It's a LLMs and GAN and VAE, different kind of generative AI came. Out of that, our focus is GPT, the generative pre-trained transformers models. That is what used by most of the AI companions. So GitHub Copilot is also based on a GPT model. It's that obviously evolving every day kind of thing. It's moving from one version to the other version. More training and enhancements are happening. BERT and T5 is existing for a longer time for our implementations in a product level, but never used for as an AI companion for a developer kind of thing. So when it came to the GPT, we started our AI companion. The one we are going to see today is the GitHub Copilot. Saying that GitHub Copilot is not the only AI companion out there. There are n number of AI companions right now, but the first one released to the market is the Copilot, and it's got a wide adoption by most of the companies, because when it comes to a enterprise, they will take care of they will look on not only the tool, the other aspects like the security complaints, whether the tool is aligned to their standards, everything needs to be calculated. So Copilot is addressing all enterprise needs. That's why it's mostly adopted by many of the enterprises. So why Copilot? It's increased the developer productivity. When I say productivity, it deals with the multiple things, not only the speed in which you can develop and release the product. In another way, your satisfaction. If you have a friend next to you, obviously to share your problems, get a help, you will like that one. That is a satisfaction in a common terms. And also someone who get in a new technology area to bridge your skill gaps. A new version is introduced, or you are getting into a new project, you need to learn a new technology. If someone who is next to you always, that will be a better advantage for you. And obviously you can quickly develop prototype and innovate more on the rapidly on the new areas. So I will demonstrate that as part of the prototyping areas. So before going into the detailed demo, just want to touch upon that Copilot is having two components. One is an extension which sit in your IDE. if it is Visual Studio or VS Code or IntelliJ, whatever the ID you are using, you're supposed to install an extension which talks to the cloud hosted model. In between, there are a lot of services involved for filtering, security enforcement, removing the abusive languages, and everything is there that we will keep aside. For us, there are two components, the ID-based Copilot extension and the cloud-hosted model. This will be communicating each other and getting the help to you. So let us move to a demonstration. I will take you through multiple use cases, which will help you to understand how this GitHub Copilot is going to um, address your day-to-day activities, or how you can use the GitHub Copilot as part of your project development. So before going there, the language in which you are talking to the Copilot or any AI model is called prompt engineering. So you may be hearing this language for a longer time. Sorry, let me just go to the demo. Before that, a brief on the prompt engineering aspect. Everyone who is looking at getting into an AI companion-based system, you should be aware of prompt engineering. It's not a hard rule or anything. There may be a number of courses out there, but it's a normal way of communicating to a friend or your companion. You need to explain in detail, that is what prompt engineering altogether, what exactly you need. When you approach someone, for example, you want to buy a shirt, and if you are going to a shop and asking them, I need a shirt, you will get a wide range of options. You need to pick from that. Instead of you are specifying that this brand size is 42 and the black color, I need a shirt, then you may end up with 10 different options. Again, if you go a little more polished way, it should be formal shirt or casual areas, add more areas, then you will end up with one or two options. From there, you can select whatever appropriate for you. Similarly, in a prompt engineering also, you need to specify what kind of classes, methods, and the input, output, everything is required. So let us start with a simple example here. Let me increase the size. Hope you are able to see this one. So for setting up Copilot, I will tell you how to get the license and everything. But when you have the license, you can go to the extensions and search for GitHub Copilot. I have already installed this one. So there is an update pending. I can update it. Otherwise, you search for GitHub Copilot and install. That's a simple one-click approach. Once it's installed, you will have the Copilot icon down here in your status bar. Click on that one. Normally it's a cross marked till you enable or activate with your license. You need to log in with your github.com account so that you will get the Copilot enabled here. Once it's available, you can start utilizing the Copilot. The initial aspect of Copilot is the code completion, will say, or conversion of your requirement from a command to code. So I'm going with a very small example. Define a function to validate a string is palindrome or not. So even I am not specified whether it's a Python or C# or anything. So in Python, we use the common hash symbol, then specified this one. And let us see how Copilot is coming with the code snippet. As you can see that is palindrome is completed. Now, if I want to test is palindrome, it start defining testing is palindrome method. So either you can accept this one, or you can specify, define the main method. So from main only, normally Python will be get executed. It's defining the main method, and I need to invoke the main method. So call the main method, how to invoke the main method. So hardly it took 1 or 2 seconds time, my application for checking the palindrome is completed. I can go ahead and execute this one. Python 3 is what I am using, verify.py, and you can here enter the string, or it is not a palindrome, and if it is madam, it's a palindrome. So you can change according to your requirement. Maybe the message is not correct, you want to modify further. So two functionalities you can observe here. One is when you give your requirement as a prompt or a comment. This is called a prompt. When you give a prompt, it comes with the code, and even it comes with the completion of the code also. If you want to auto complete it, you can start typing the code. No need to specify the requirement. Start typing. It comes with the next code pieces. So this is the easy or very quick way of getting your normal activities done. This case, it's given 100% of the code, but in a real programming, expect that Copilot will render based on your requirement 60 to 80%. As a developer, it's your ownership or your responsibility to review the code and modify according to your requirements. So let me go ahead and do another example. Define a function to validate a prime number. So this is what I need. So let us see how Copilot is going to generate the code. It's came up with some code piece. I just accepted. And if I need another function, I can again go ahead and ask, define a function to validate palindrome or something else. Let me go ahead with uh, okay, palindrome number. So it's going for the palindrome settings. And if I need another one, either I can accept this suggestion or go with update on what exactly I need. I need a define a main method. So this is what I needed. I can go ahead and accept it. So it simply provided the entire one. As a end customer or as a developer, I can just go ahead and modify the code based on my requirement. Sometimes the Copilot is generated this one. For example, I need a regex function. Normally we use regex, define a function to validate email using regex. So this is what I needed. And it's importing the regex and it's done the validation. Understanding this pattern is difficult. So there also Copilot will be able to help you how to explain this one. So just simply select this code. We have a Copilot chat window here. You select that one, either /explain. It simply explain what exactly this code is going to do it. The provided snippet is for validate email, and each of this statement, why to import RE, and what exactly this regex pattern is. Each of the symbols in the regex pattern is explained in detail. As you can observe here, it's given what exactly each of the symbols, unless otherwise you will go copy paste this regex in Google and ask for explanation. It may come with some explanation. Again, you need to identify which one is correct explanation, whether the each of the symbols are covered or not, all these elements. But here it's very simple. You select the code and ask Copilot to explain it. A detailed explanation came here. Sometimes we may prefer to get an explanation in our own language. For example, I want to get this explanation in my language. So I'm just going ahead and trying to get, I need to get the explanation in Malayalam. So code Malayalamil വിശദീകരിക്കുക. So I am asking to explain the code in my language. So it's start explaining, you can use your own language. If it is Malayalam or any other language, it gives a detailed explanation in your language. Even the prompt can be in multiple languages. You can add your own language. Copilot is trying to explain or use that and come up with a detailed information in the specified language itself. So let it complete the explanation. It's going in detail. So I'm just stopping it because it takes a little time to get the complete explanation here. Or sometimes we prefer, instead of typing, you can go ahead with a voice enabled coding as well. Either you can take this voice from here itself, or you have this voice window here. Just click on this speaker icon and speak about what exactly you need. So let me ask Copilot to define a function to validate the phone number using regex. Let me go ahead. Define a function to validate phone number using regex. So it's a voice enabled one. You will get the complete information, especially accessibility angle. Instead of typing, you can use Copilot voice enable one. Even you can ask Copilot to read it.
Def is underscore valid underscore phone underscore number. Phone underscore number.
So it will read aloud the recommendation. So anyone with some kind of little blindness or anything, they can use this for the reading aspect as well. So this is all good for an existing application, but when you start a new application, Copilot have a feature also. Let me start a new project. As most of you may be dealing with Python, I'm also going with a new project with Python. How quickly you can start a Notepad. Python, normally we use the Jupyter Notebook. So I am going with the Jupyter Notebook, and I am asking, I need a sentiment analysis of 5 sample statements. Not only sentiment analysis, I need to plot the sentiment in a graph, or you can specify a specific chart type also. War chart I'm using. This is what I needed. So it's a new work notebook is what I am going to get it. Instead of giving one after the other the statements, it's going to generate the complete notebook itself. So I'm going to create the notebook. It's going to render the complete code. As anyone used Jupyter Notebook knows that it's comes with the explanation and the piece of code which you can execute there itself. So this the complete notebook is ready. I can run the imports. Obviously, any Python or any even Java language you are using, you need to import the dependencies. That's the first statement. Then I have asked for 5 sample statement, that is done. And then the sentiment analysis is done and going for floating it. As you can see, it came properly. The bar chart is what I mentioned, and I got the symbol bar chart with a 2-3 clicks. I haven't touched any of this code base. Even I can ask for reading this data from a CSV instead of defining sample statement. It's a very quick development of your prototype. That's what we are seeing. If you want to prototype or come up with a new idea, innovation, quickly you will be able to generate using Copilot. There are 2 options. New notebook is for the Jupyter Notebook. Anyone dealing with Jupyter Notebook can use that. New is for Java, .NET or PHP, any of other technologies you are using. Okay, saying that, let us go back to our code base here. So after developing the code, one of your main aspect or activity is to do the documentation of the things. So you want to do a kind of documentation. For example, if I need to explain, one line is here already because I used a Copilot, but I want to add line by line comments here. Instead of I am writing the comment, what exactly the code is doing, I can ask Copilot to comment my code. Select the code and ask Copilot what exactly he needs to do it. It's going to give a line by line text comment which explain what's the functionality of this code piece. Here it's only 3 lines, it looks fine, but when it comes to a bigger class, here I have a bigger class. If I need to comment this one, it takes a little time from my end if I need to add one by one. Instead of that, I can ask Copilot to comment it. It come up with a nicely written comments. As a developer, obviously I need to review the code. After that, I can incorporate it. Once it's done, you can simply replace the code with the commented code. As you can see that all the lines have the comments explaining what exactly the code is doing. And it's not a simple one word or 2 word comment. It's giving you detailed information based on the code. The contextual information is coming as part of the comment itself. So let me, this is another area, coding, explaining the code, commenting the code. These all are part of your requirements. Normally, as a developer, you do day-to-day these activities. Once you develop, then obviously you go for commenting and then getting an explanation of existing code and everything else. So let us go into a little more complex way where you have a structure here. It's a JSON file. You may be a CSV file or JSON data will be there. And now from this sample code, I'm going to code it back. So data is there. You got the data from, for example, an external API provided the data. Now we need to code it backward. Normally we generate the data from the code. Instead of that, from data, we are taking it back to the code. So select the piece of JSON and I'm going first the database layer. So I need to create a table schema for the selection. So you can use some kind of hash selection to indicate this is the selection. For that, I need a table schema. So all the create statement with the proper primary key, foreign key, and everything is done. You can see that it's provided the properties table with the primary key and all the fields captured as part of this schema. Now, schema is ready. Now, you may need to insert this data back to the database. So, let me take again Copilot, create the SQL insert statement for again selection. Here, the selection is nothing but the JSON data selected here. So, it's going to create insert statement for this one. Not only one thing, if you want to select multiple JSON entities, you can select it and you will get multiple insert statement here. It's a simple way of converting your data into a code base. Sometimes that's how we do. We start with the data, analyze the data, and now we decide what exactly we are going to do it, kind of thing. And it's not only that, if you feel that you need some more sample data here, just start typing. You can observe that the Copilot generated the complete structure for 1 or 2 entities already here. Either you can just press tab, it's collect all this information. So sample data generation also possible. Converting this data into the code is also possible. It's not only the schema. So normally we take the data and convert it to schema and inserted the data. Now for accessing this, you need a front-end layer, maybe a Java code or .NET code, which align to this schema. So you can specify that, define a .NET entity for selection. So the backend, normally a program have a front end, backend, and database. We done the database piece first. From the sample code, we generated the database schema and the insertion statement. Now the middle layer, the API need an entity matching the schema. So you don't need to start writing everything. Pass the sample data and ask Copilot to generate the sample entity for you. Here you can see the property entity with the first ID is a key and the required field name, description, and everything. Even image is a multiple entity. Image URL is multiple entries. So let us see how it's defined that there is a image URL. It's a JSON string is used here. If you feel this needs to be an array or this needs to be defined as a separate entity altogether, revise it. Revise the recommendation with image URLs as another entity. So you are not only just listening to Copilot, you are directing the Copilot. Okay, you've given this output, but I am not happy. Revise it with my requirement. So now I am going to ask Copilot to come with a new entity, that is the image entity. That is property image is defined here, as you can observe here, and it's added as part of the properties. The properties here, as part of that, we have the collection of this one. Here, it's a collection is defined based on this property image entity. So properly, it's defined two different classes and linked together also. So if you want further revision, if you want to add the comments or documentation or modification on one or the other fields, you can revise the response from Copilot based on your requirement. Hope you are with me till now. Any questions? Let me just check it out. Any questions? I'm holding for 1 minute. If you have any questions still here. Is it clear? Hope it's clear. Let me go ahead with the next one. So, sorry. So let us go to an HTML page. So we did a lot of things. Simply let us see how we can create an HTML page. For that, I need some image URL also. I'm just copying some image URL. Copy image, open image in new tab and copy this one. So let me try to create an HTML page completely. Okay, so I am going to create a web page. What all things you need? Displaying a header, subheader, and an image from. So I just copied the image URL. It's an outside Google search image. And after that, what else I need? Format the page with black background. So I need a black background, all items in center. So you can add what all things you need in their thing and ask Copilot to generate. It comes with the basic structure. After that, obviously, you can modify based on your requirement. It's defined the things. So let me just simply add this HTML into the code. So you can observe here, there are some of the icons. You can copy, insert, and also insert into a new file kind of thing. So I simply copied and inserted here. It's done. Let me go and browse this HTML live server. So it's came in the other screen. You can see that this is what I got it. So normally, as a developer, we take a lot of time to develop it, at least 10 minutes. If you are very professional with a heading, middle alignment, and some images and background color, everything, it takes a little more time than what we observed right now. That is where the Copilot add productivity. Once you have this structure, obviously you can start working on what else you needed. You may need some data from database or the API, everything you can add it further. And you may need this style to be kept in a CSS file. Copy paste into a CSS and add the reference. As a developer, that's your next steps. But Copilot is able to give you the initial completion or the initial code completion kind of thing. Okay, this is a simple HTML example. Now, if you want more complex one, you can go ahead and link it with the multiple classes and everything. It's possible. For example, hope some of you maybe worked on controllers or APIs. We have a property controller here. Let me close some of these so that I will get the space. So we have this property controller. It's nothing but a REST API. And we have the schema defined as part of DB script here. You can see that the properties are the one which define this controller. And in this, I have user controller, property controller, and a home controller. But a schema include some other aspect like a owner details. If I need a controller class for this schema, which is aligned to the coding standards I have followed in property controller. So two things it needs to consider: my schema, my coding standard or the pattern. Everyone have their own coding standards. These two, consider these two and come up with a new controller. That is what I needed. So then you can link the different files all together, specifying that generate the controller class for what is our owner details. For owner details defined in, you can pass the file, that is dv script have, based on file I need the property controller as the base file. So two files are passed as part of my prompting, specifying I need a new controller for this particular entity, but follow the controller defined already. I don't need any new coding standard or exception handling or anything. So if you notice here, this is our property controller. All this using clauses will come here exactly similar way. And the routing mechanism we used is controller is exactly copied the same. This is property controller. Here you have owner details controller. And you have a hello method here for testing that is also repeated here. With the message also customized. Here it's a property controller. Here hello from owner details controller. And you have the get method, post method. Everything is similar way. The naming convention we used is the camel case kind of thing. That is also followed. Even this context is underscore context, that is a local variable or private variable declaration. It's followed exactly the same declaration pattern. So if you feel something is very complex, you need to refer multiple files. Still, it's possible with Copilot. You can pass multiple files by using hash file terminology and add or link multiple files together to construct it. Obviously, once it's constructed, you can add as a new file, and maybe you need a new method for getting some more information. Again, prompt it here. Inline prompting is possible. You can ask that one. Or command I will give you an inline chat interface also. You have a chat interface. Sometimes explanation needed here itself. So go for command I. I am in MacBook, that is by command I. You can use whatever the one, either slash command, or you can go with the same explain my code. Both will give the exactly the same answer. This is an inline chat. No need to go for even chat window. Everything can be done using this inline chat window. So you have this inline chat. Each of the OS have their own shortcut. In Mac, it is command I. Okay. So there are multiple elements in the Copilot which helps the developer. If you are a seasoned developer, sometimes we stick to the command palette. I don't know how many of you are using VS Code extensively. The VS Code lovers like command palette like anything. They want everything in command palette. They don't want any chat or anything. As you can observe, all the commands are available as part of the command palette. You can trigger it from here itself also. So it's available in multiple places. I'm not touching in a detailed way, but I hope you understand how to generate the code, document, get an explanation, link multiple files to generate a new code based on schema and all, even generate a complete website based on your prompt and the inputs thing. And remember, all this prompt we passed, it's a maximum of 2 lines, but in a real enterprise application development, there are people using prompt of 20 lines long, which explain exactly what required. So when it's come to a real programming, you also may be going to use such a lengthy prompt. Don't stick to this 1 or 2 lines. But if it is a prototyping or you are very good in handling the prompt engineering, you can go ahead and use simple prompts kind of thing. So one last thing, that is unit testing. So for example, I have some simple methods here, palindrome or prime number. It's a simple one. If I need unit testing, normally unit testing concept is like, I define this is prime. This needs to be tested with multiple numbers. One should satisfy this, the other should satisfy this, third should come here, and the fourth will go inside, but not if. Fifth may be inside. So there are multiple test cases, even though you defined a single method, but the number of test cases required is more to cover the end-to-end. We call it as a test coverage. Normally, team looks for a 90% kind of test coverage with exception block and everything. So here you can select this one, go ahead and ask Copilot to generate the test. There is a slash command available, which help you to generate the complete test cases covering almost all the blocks. Obviously, in a real programming, you may have some of the business conditions which you may be aware. The email should have a length of 10 characters or 20 characters. That's a condition you have. Then you can define your own test cases also with a proper prompt engineering. Here the Copilot came with the test cases, and it's easy to understand the test cases also. It's explained here. There are 7 test cases. The first one is test with negative number, with 0 and 1, prime number, non-prime even number, non-prime odd number, large non-prime. Exactly the same way the names are defined so that it's easy for us to understand what exactly each of the test cases. Here this the large prime number. One is returning 1, the other return false, because one is prime, its other one is not a prime number. So you have the complete test cases. If you think you want to write all these test cases, it may take minimum 1 hour time, or if you are so prominent, at least it takes its own time. It's very difficult to write all the test cases. Now, sometimes we go for data-driven test cases also. For example, I need a data-driven test case here. Instead of all these test cases, I can ask start test is the shortcut. Either you can go with that, or you can ask Copilot in a prompt engineering way. So here I am going to ask Copilot, define unit test based on theory pattern. So theory pattern is used by XUnit, that is a .NET unit testing framework, to cover all test scenarios. Or it's not required. Theory pattern, it's enough. It's a simple ask. Define the unit test based on theory pattern. So it should define the inline data. Earlier, it's defined the data. For each of the data, it's defined multiple test cases. In a data-driven test approach, you have one test case which takes the data and run it. Actually, this one test case executes 7 times. The first one is using this. second one this one, third one this one. That way it use each of the test data and execute it. So it's equivalent to 7 different test cases, but it reduce the complexity. If you look at this test case, if someone want to modify this all the test cases, it takes time and for understanding each of the things, what data is passed here, 7, 4, understanding this data, they need to go through each of the things. Instead of that, if we have a data-driven test case, it's defined as part of the test case and single test case which accept it. Even you can specify that revise the previous recommendation with data reading from CSV file. So instead of inline data, you can say read it from a CSV external file. So your data will be in a different file altogether, and then you are running. So this the data retrieval, and this the test case, and this is linked with member data. So you need to define a CSV file with this NDA data and then pass it as an input. So how complex your test scenarios is, if it is simple, slash test is covered it. If it is data driven, or you have an exception handling or boundary condition, business requirement, explain it as part of your prompt for a proper test case generation. So I'm stopping here. I hope it's helped you to create the code, document the code, and construct a complex code kind of thing. And then we done a web page development and unit testing as the last. There are furthermore, you can do refactoring, security testing, many other aspects. So I'm not going into each and everything of that. Instead, let me take you to the journey of Copilot. We started in 2022 with the code completion. This is only code completion. No chat feature came that time. 23, we got the chat feature. And now in 24, we have the enterprise that goes to the .com platform itself. So I am not demonstrated this piece. We done only these two right now. The remaining is still pending. There are much more happening in Copilot. The workspace is like an amazing, a magical tool. You can just do your idea, it create the entire code kind of thing, just like the new sentiment analysis, similar kind of thing you can observe in workspace, but it's a future, very early stage it's available. Along with that, we have a bunch of CLI support, the people working on the command prompt, still Copilot is available there. And you are in the move, you have a GitHub app in your mobile. You can use Copilot mobile for learning purpose. You can ask multiple questions where you are stuck and everything there. So this is the journey. We touched only two phases, the first two areas. I hope as a student, or the people who are getting into the new development journey, these two phases will be of much importance. And for getting the Copilot access, you can take this URL. GitHub is an open source centric company. We sell the Copilot to the organization. At the same time, we support the education as well as the open source community. As a student, you have the license benefit. You will get a free license, that is a Copilot individual license. For that, you can take this URL, register for the GitHub education benefit. Once it's approved from GitHub angle, you will be able to get the Copilot without any license cost. You can explore further, get into more on the AI companionship kind of thing. But even if it is not Copilot also, if you want to continue your journey as a developer, you are foreseeing your future as a developer, get into one of the AI companion. It can be Copilot or anything. But remember that without a companion, your journey will be difficult. Simple example, if you take the enterprise viewpoint, if a person is completing the work in 1 week, the same work is completed by the second person in 1 day. Obviously, the enterprise will choose the second person. He knows the AI, he knows the prompt engineering. Because he is able to complete 1 day, enterprise needs to pay for only 1 day instead of 1 week time. So if you want to get into a development journey or the job kind of thing, understand one of the AI companion, get skilled on that one. And if you want more information on the Copilot area, you can connect with me in LinkedIn, and we have a YouTube channel where you have almost all these scenarios are covered in small videos, what is coming up also. You can get a feel of what exactly the AI based development journey is altogether. So let me open for questions. If you have any questions, you can either unmute and ask the questions, or you can post it in the chat window.
Now it's the time to ask your queries and any doubts. So, anyone, please.
Not doubts really, but I use GitHub Copilot, and I only used it for auto completion of code. I had no idea it could be used for testing, documentation, etc. So yeah, this session has been insanely helpful. I gain a new perspective, and I can use it for my development skills.
Thank you. Thanks, Advait. Explore the chat area that will help you in the other activities apart from autocomplete.
Anyone else?
Looks like people are clear. So explore it further. If you have any further questions, you can connect with me, and let us discuss later. If you have any final question, otherwise, Bridget, you can bind up the session.
Okay, I guess this is it. So, as we wrap up this incredible session, I would like to extend our heartfelt gratitude to Ms. Ambali KK for sharing her time, knowledge, and expertise with us today. Ma'am, your session on GitHub Copilot has given us an insight on how this world's most widely adopted AI developer tool can enhance our coding practices, productivity, and help us showcase our full potential as developers. Your detailed presentation and practical examples have made it clear just how impactful GitHub Copilot can be in our daily workflows for students and developers alike. The ability of GitHub Copilot to assist in writing efficient code and offering immediate feedback is a game changer for anyone looking to improve their coding skills. We are immensely grateful for your willingness to engage with us, address our questions, and provide such valuable guidance. Your passion for technology and empowering developers shines through, and we are inspired by your dedication and expertise. The knowledge you have shared today will undoubtedly help us to develop our potential and utilize it in our projects and studies. I also want to thank everyone who participated in today's session. Your enthusiasm and curiosity have made this event a success. We look forward to applying the knowledge we have gained and continue to collaborate with you in the future also. So, everyone, have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, team.